This episode is brought to you by Audacia Capital. Audacia Capital is a leading fixed income specialist on the Irish Stock Exchange. Audacia Capital is known for its bold and innovative approach in the corporate bond space. For more information, visit our website at audaciaplc.com.
This is the Glenn Hoddle Footy Show. I'm Glenn Hoddle.
Welcome to the Glenn Hoddle Footy Show. This is episode number 24. Episodes are released on Sunday evenings, and we hope you will join us throughout the season. Today we discuss the latest from the Premier League and take a look at the dreaded VAR. Glenn also answers questions from the Evening Standard newspaper for his weekly column Ask Hoddle, which you can read every Monday. And this week we have a fantastic competition together with our friends at memo.me, and you can enter that for free. Just visit one of the unique links that are featured on all of our leading podcast platforms. Well, Glenn, another win for Manchester City on Sunday, but let's talk about the Aston Villa-Leicester game. Leicester winning 2-1 in a close affair. Leicester in second place, and they're having a great season, aren't they?
Oh, they've been brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and they're justified, and it's right that they're second in the league. I think they are a very, very dangerous team, the closest team to City this year, and you've got to tip your hat to everyone at Leicester City Football Club with the the injuries that they've had to deal with as well. It's not just they've had a full squad and they've had no injuries hit them. They've had to deal with stuff right the way through the season, and I think they've been fantastic. Don't forget they've had Europa League to play as well on a Thursday, and the squad has been put under that pressure as well. So some of the football that they play is excellent, and they've got a real good squad. It's about the quality of their squad that is there for everyone to see, and it is ahead. There's no doubt in saying it's ahead of other big clubs. So-called big clubs around them. Your Man Uniteds, your Tottenhams, your Chelseas, all them teams at the moment, they're way above. Maybe City are the only ones that are a better team at the moment. They really are functioning well. Players come in, when they've had injuries, players have come in and their system. They lost Maddison today, and they just adjusted, and then Tielemans goes into that number 10 position, and they've had Sionchu come in after he's been out a long injury. He looks like he's never been away. They really, really have been impressive, and some of the football they've played, I think everyone needs to, players, staff, everyone needs to be applauded with the way they're playing, and they deserve to be there.
I saw in the week you did a piece for one of the newspapers on Grealish or Maddison or Foden or Grealish. We've spoken about this in the podcast before as well. Gareth Southgate was obviously there at Villa Park today to see Grealish and Maddison. Obviously, Maddison went off with an injury, but he doesn't really see them as competition for each other. He's got them in different positions. And I know you, in the end, in your article, you went for Foden because you're a big fan. But can Grealish and Maddison play together, perhaps?
Well, they can, yes, they can. There's no doubt. I think there's Mason Mount as well. I think there's four really good sort of number 10s, if you like, depending on what shape. Depending on what shape Gareth wants to play. If he wants to play three at the back, he can easily get Grealish and Foden in, or Grealish and Maddison, Foden and Maddison, Mount and Maddison. It doesn't matter. You've got those sort of players. If he's playing with a three at the back, with wing backs, he can play them there. And you're then putting pressure on people like Rashford and Sterling and Sancho. So you've got those type of players, but then you've got these number 10s that can play. So if he wants to play in a 4-3-3, he can play Grealish out wide, high up on the left, like he does for Villa. And Foden could play, or Maddison could play as a 10 if he wanted two holding players in midfield. So he's got so many options, Gareth, going forward. He will be concerned that Grealish didn't start the game. I don't quite 100% know if he's a long-term injury or what. And obviously Maddison went off with a hip problem, which could be hopefully not a long-term scenario. So, but if not, Mason Mount and Foden, they're two very, very talented players that can play in those positions as well. So, it's wonderful for England, wonderful for Gareth as England manager to have all those options.
He must be so excited. The squad that he's now got with the youngsters coming through, he can really mould them for years to come because they're all quite young, aren't they? Still.
That's what's so exciting about the England scenario. Sterling still, in his peak. Rashford yet to hit his peak. All them players. Young Sancho. You've got the wider players coming through. There's such abundance of talent, of English talent that's coming through. Sacco is a young lad at Arsenal. You've got a hell of a lot of young talent right across the country, and obviously Gareth's not a problem. It's a slight headache, but not a problem. Is to fit them in. You won't get them all in, but it's lovely to have those choices, isn't it? I mean, we've looked at countries over the years gone by, and that fantastic Spanish team with Xavi and Iniesta and all them skillful players. They managed to play together. The great teams have always had creative players in abundance, and it's lovely to see that. Now, the challenge for Gareth would be to balance it all off with the right defensive type of players, and get the balance right.
I remember when the season restarted, we spoke about Everton having the best chance they would ever have to beat Liverpool at the time. They were flying high in the table. Lo and behold, they wait to go to Anfield and then win 2-0. Everton played really well. Ancelotti got it spot on, didn't he?
He certainly did. He played that strong sort of almost like, strong back four with full of sort of centre backs in many ways, attitude, and kept them intact. He didn't let them really play expansive. Didn't let the fullbacks go too high, and got the balance of his team. I think that's the one thing Ancelotti is brilliant at is the typical the DNA of the Italian sort of style comes into Ancelotti's teams, and then he has the intelligence to use, like, now he's playing Rodriguez in a different position than he did when he first started, when he first come over. He was playing in a 4-3-3 out on that right hand side, coming inside on his left. Now he's playing him as just behind the striker and just in front of the solid sort of looking sort of midfield players that he's got in there. So yeah, I think he has got some the talent of balancing this Everton team off. What he hasn't got yet is consistency from Everton.
No.
Very up and down. They go and lose to Fulham like they did, and then they go to Liverpool. But I mean, this is an interesting thing for me. You can't tell me the game isn't played in the mind, mentally first, because you can't go. How do you go 265 games at home without losing, and suddenly you lose 4 back-to-back home games, and that's Liverpool at the moment, and it's down to a change of player and an injury hit squad, but they still should have enough in that team and in that squad, and the confidence that they've built up in the last 2 or 3 seasons to have won some of their matches that they've played at home. And there's something missing there at Liverpool, not just the injuries and the change of personnel. There's something still missing there, and they've got to get it back. They've got to get it back, and that's where Jurgen Klopp and his staff have got to really put their finger on it and get them back playing at their very best again. And it's a challenge. It's going to be a challenge to him, and it's going to be intriguing as a neutral looking in how they get back to that winning mentality of what they had. It's incredible when that's a stat and something that's happened that just tells you that it's a mental thing.
Looking back in hindsight, which is always very easy to do, would it have been better to have left the midfielders in midfield and not brought them back as central defenders? Because when you do that, you've got Henderson and those kind of players playing central defenders, which is not their best position, but you're also taking away their quality in midfield. So you're almost losing 2 areas of the pitch in quality. Whereas if you'd have just brought in youngsters into central defence, you still would have had your midfielders in the right positions.
Yeah, I think in hindsight, it's easy to do that. But I think once you can do it with one, it wasn't a problem putting Fabinho. He was man the match against in some of the European games when he went back. We're all, the big question mark was always got to go back in defence. He was excellent. But then when Henderson had to go as well, that's when the problems started. You could just see the slight problem. The balance wasn't quite right. And I think it might have been then that it would have been an opportunity to say, hang on a minute, I've got to put my hat on, on a youngster. But they've had so many other changes. Gomez came in, Matic. They've had, to be fair to them, they've had so many different injuries and different changes and combinations of central partners, which will affect results. There's no doubt about it. Even Man City would find that difficult now. If they had 4, 5, 6 different players out at different times and different combinations, that wouldn't be easy. But I think it stems a little bit further than that. There's something at Liverpool, as you say. They're not those 4 games. No disrespect to those clubs. They're 4 home matches after 260. What is it? 65, something like that. Matches. Against your Brightons, your Burnleys. They weren't against Man United's and Arsenal's or Chelsea or Leicester. They were teams that realistically they still should have had enough to get over the line.
This episode is brought to you by the Lily White Foundation. We believe sport is fundamental to the development of young people, but sadly, many young people in difficult financial or social circumstances don't get the opportunities most of us take for granted. The Lily White Foundation supports projects that help children and young people take part in sports and activities. For more information, go to lilywhitefoundation.com. You're listening to the Glenn Hoddle Footy Show podcast. If you'd like to get in touch with Glenn, this is how to do it.
To get in touch with Glenn with a question for a future Footy Show podcast, you can email glenn@midnightuk.co.uk or send a tweet to @midnightmix.
We'll talk about the Champions League in midweek. You wanted to see Messi. I think you saw Mbappe instead, but we'll have a word about that a little bit later on, perhaps. Evening Standard, I want to get their readers' questions in earlier today because we can't really avoid asking the questions when you look back at the weekend. And Hayden, he wants to know, do you think Jose Mourinho should be sacked?
No, I don't. Not at the moment. There's a lot of call from fans, but second half against West Ham, rightly so. They're flying at the moment. They really are a very good side. David Moyes has done a great job, and the balance between their defending and their attacking, they've got the balance spot on. They're a very, very solid side, but then they've also got players that can break out and be expansive at the right time. No, I think second half Spurs, you couldn't say Mourinho looked, every attacking option he had was on the football pitch, and they hit the bar, hit the post. It could have gone in a different way, and he's been brought in to bring some silverware. He's in a cup final. How can you sack somebody who's got a cup final in April coming along? It's ridiculous, and that's the reason why he's been brought in. Consistency, all the other things, maybe things have got to maybe change over a course of time, but that has to happen over time. I think he's earned the right to, with what he's done in his career, to actually be given more time. I really do. As much as there's at times I look at Tottenham and I think we do look an average team at times. I've got to say that things are not. But that's other clubs as well. It turns around very quickly. A couple of wins and the confidence coming back. It was good to see Gareth Bale come back, but I wouldn't. I think that's the best couple of games I've seen Bale play in Europe in the week, and certainly when he came on in the second half. That will be interesting to see whether I think it's time to put Gareth in the team and see what he can do for the team.
And Maria wants to know, what did you make of Thomas Tuchel's comments about Callum Hudson-Odoi's attitude not being right on Saturday? You were at the Southampton-Chelsea game.
This is one that I wrote down that we should have a little clip and talk about, because I was really, really scratching my head. I was doing the code comms. I saw him kick a bottle up the stairs as he went up into the stands, and I thought, well, is he either injured and he's really upset because he's been injured, or is he upset because he's been yanked off after being put on? And I couldn't see the justification. There's obviously the manager knows the attitude that he wants from his players and certain young players. I didn't see a poor attitude. I saw a player actually that came on and made a big difference to Chelsea, and was making some lovely little blindside runs, getting to the byline, creating stuff for the team. him look really sharp. It must have only been, and I'm only guessing, that he might have not done a couple of defensive duties that the manager wanted him to do. I don't know. But certainly the way he played, I don't think it was justified taking him back off. But the manager knows, he was closer to it and knows him far better than I do. But that's one I want to see how he responds now. That's an interesting one, how he's come out and said it publicly. That would be interesting whether, Hudson-Odoi takes that on the chin and tries to prove him wrong, and that's the only way that he can motivate himself to do that. And I'm interested to see what happens next week.
Could it also be argued that Tuchel doesn't really know Hudson-Odoi long enough to know how his personality will respond to being publicly criticised like that?
I think it's a test. He's giving him a test, and it's not a test, not in the way that I would personally do. Because if I could understand if he's gone on and not taken in instructions, and he's not playing the position, and he's doing things for himself rather than the team, and he wasn't actually affecting the game in a positive way, I could understand that. I could say, well, hang on a minute, the manager's got every right to. But I thought he made a difference. I thought he was making some really good runs. He played that. Allowed Mount then to play in the number 10 position, and Werner played a little bit high up. That adjustment looked like it had worked, be it because Abraham had come off with an ankle injury. But no, I just didn't see the justification of one, taking him off, and two, saying what he said publicly. But obviously, it remains to be seen what happens in the future with Hudson-Odoi and the manager to see whether that's worked or not.
I don't think you would have done that. You would have come out on Match of the Day and on BT and say immediately after the match, well, I took him off because he had no energy and he didn't sort of defend in a couple of times that we needed him to. You would have kept that in the dressing room, wouldn't you?
He's in the dressing room, stays on the training ground. You might have had a chat with him on the Monday or whatever, but certainly maybe that's what Tuchel's done with every club he's done in Germany and in France. I don't know, but sometimes you can, managers find different ways of testing young players to see more. They want to know more of their character. They want to see, Mason Mount was interesting. He didn't play against Wolves in the first game for Tuchel, and everyone was like, wow, actually, Frank played him in every game. And then suddenly he got 20 minutes or 15 minutes and he showed such a great attitude. He came on and he sort of made the manager think and look and think, actually, this kid's got something. And he played really well in that 15 minutes, and he's been in since. So, perhaps it's a little bit of a test for Hudson-Odoi.
Right, well, they're the two questions that we're taking for the podcast from the Evening Standard readers. The remainder of the questions and the answers there too can be read online and in the newspaper. It's standard.co.uk/sport and search for Ask Hoddle. The column's out every Monday. Rumours going around, wasn't it, in the papers, that Spurs put 150 million valuation on Harry Kane. If you don't want him to leave, why would you put a valuation on him?
Is that a down payment?
Well, these days, possibly. Yeah, who knows? He's not going to go. I mean, it's the fact that Pochettino's gone to Paris is absolutely flames for the fire, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's automatically going to be linked. 2 weeks ago, it was Dele Alli that was going there that Poch wanted to take. Last year it was muted. City were in for Kane, and that's that they're going to go all out to get Harry Kane there. And so that's going to happen. There's no doubt about it. What's got to happen back in the real world is Spurs have got to pick up, start playing much better. Hopefully for Tottenham, personally, obviously I'm a Spurs man. Win the League Cup against Man City, and that would be a stepping stone for keeping your best players. So that's on the agenda for Tottenham. But no, there's going to be speculation. You can't stop that.
Talking about Paris Saint-Germain briefly there, you watched the game against Barcelona, and Mbappe with a hat-trick absolutely devoured the stadium and all the ground in it. It was absolutely brilliant. Messi seemed a little bit of a forlorn character. He doesn't really have an awful lot of support as he has in the past 5-10 years there, has he, any longer?
No, it's pretty evident that Ronald Koeman, I think, has gone to Barcelona at the wrong time. There's going to be a rebuild. There's going to be a rebuild, and there's no doubt about it. They're not the same team as they were years ago. Messi's 33 now. He's going to play slightly different, in a different position on the pitch, I feel, where he can still be absolute value. With the pass that he put through for the penalty is an example of that. So played in the right team, and he will lead Barcelona. There's no doubt about it. He's got to do what's right for him. He's given them so much service. He's been there all his life. What he's done is incredible. But it's time for him to move on. There's no doubt about that. And I'm pretty sure all his advisors, and he'll be thinking that way. They're going to have to rebuild. They're going to have to start again. Barcelona, defensively, they were all over the place. They're a side that's needing that rebuild. And Paris Saint-Germain, well, they're muted to be in for Messi. If you put Messi in a bit deeper with Neymar and Mbappe, they are going to be a force. Imagine him playing there, just tucked in behind as a number 10, sort of in a deeper role. My word, that would be sensational. So yes, Mbappe was out of this world. He was brilliant, and he's 22 years of age. He's going to be the next one. We've thought that for 2 or 3 years. He will be. Once Ronaldo and Messi hang their boots up, he will be the next. He will be the next kiddie on the block and the world's best. So it was lovely to see him play on the same pitch as Messi, but. It was his night, and but Messi will have his other games. He'll come back, I'm sure. He's still so talented, and I think with it in a different kit.
For our listeners who are 18 and over, we have teamed up with Bohemian Brands Football Vodka, where you can buy premium alcohol in your favourite footy team's colours. Click on the link directly from our podcast on Apple Tunes, Spotify, Amazon, etc., and you'll be able to get a direct link to the Bohemian Brands website where you can choose the team of your choice. The bottles are a brilliant present for any footy-mad friend or family member, so either click on our link or visit midnightuk.co.uk and go to the Glenn Hoddle Footy Show page where you'll find more information on Bohemian Brands. Remember, 18 and over only, and please drink responsibly. Thanks. Let's talk about VAR in a second, but before we do that, a message from Brian, I think he's in the USA, who sent an email in saying, Glenn, I love what you're doing with this podcast. I'm a big fan. I subscribed to it and reviewed it with 5 stars and share with every footy fan I know. You played before my time, but you're my favourite player to watch on YouTube now. So good to have your insight every week on the Premier League. Thanks, Brian. That's very nice, Glenn, for you.
Very nice, Brian. And I hope he's enjoying the football out in America as well. The American league's trying its very, very best to get right up there with all the rest of the leagues in the world and have that level. And they're doing a good job, a decent job at it, and they're making sure that a lot of the American players are getting the experience, for the future. So, which is the right thing to do. They did it. Obviously, they've done it with the women's football. They've been they were conquerors of the women's football for many, many years, and they still have. And I think they're going to try and do that with the men.
I was watching my horse racing show on Saturday morning, as I do, in preparation for the racing. And they came up with, after this, on ITV4, we got the big match revisited where Glenn Hoddle scores a fantastic goal. So I thought, well, I've got to watch this. And lo and behold, it was that volley that you scored against Forest in the 1-0 victory at White Hart Lane. It was your 22nd birthday, and you were on the program the next day with great old Brian Moore having a chat as well. And I must say, you haven't changed, but your hair's a little different than it was in those days. But what a goal that was, sir.
I saw it, yes. It didn't touch the ground, did it? I didn't know that.
No. Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, you don't get the coverage then that we used to have. Yeah. Quite a big coverage to go in the next day as well and be with Brian Moore, who sort of, as a young 22-year-old, we didn't have any sort of media training or anything like the academy boys do nowadays, and they have done for years. So I was like a rabbit in the headlights when and Brian Moore looked after me a lot that day, bless him. But no, it was lovely to do. It was a good experience to do that. But yeah, it was a lovely goal. I've got to admit, it was one of my special ones. And it was about 3 or 4 or 5 years ago where somebody just said to me then, do you realise that ball never touched the floor? And it was so un-Tottenham-like, really. It was a long ball, flick on. Jerry flicked it on, Jerry Armstrong, Chrissy Jones, 2 flick-ons, and I come in and volley it, and it went in the opposite net, past Peter Shilton without touching the floor, which I didn't have a clue. I said, well, I'll have to have a look at that again to make sure you're right, mate. I think I was out just on a social, and he was right. Yeah, so it was lovely memory, but yeah, dodgy haircut, dodgy collar on my shirt. The family were very happy, giving me plenty of stick.
There was a great question to Keith Birkinshaw, your manager at the time, when they said, do you think this lad's good enough for England? Yeah, I think that's, in hindsight, it was a bit of a decent question. Yeah, I think he'd be all right for England. He said, I hope Ron Greenwood's watching. That's what he said.
They're fascinating. I love watching some of that. When you watch Liverpool's and Man United's. There's some great. But look at the tackles. What my on the family thing. As I was saying, they were all having a joke and a laugh, and they said it was great. And mentioning my brother, bless him as well. He was only 12 at the time. He'd just gone down that week, obviously, to train with Tottenham. So it was lovely, a lovely little interlude into some memories. But some of the tackles, Kevin's tackle on Ricky Villa was unbelievable, wasn't it? I mean,
that Ricky Villa had half a sock.
Yeah,
it's gone.
Yellow card for it,
And a good talking to. And don't you do? It was Kenny Burns, I think, wasn't it, that kicked him? He kicks a few people in his day, to be fair.
Yeah, but I think there was my cousin, George, who's only he's going to be a good player, and he was saying to his dad, I can't believe the tackles. I just can't believe all the tackles that are going in and what they got away with back in the day. So yeah, it was good fun watching that. Yeah,
yeah, it was great memories. I enjoyed that. Now VAR, bear with me on this one. It's quite a long email, but the guy that sent it in is Andy McClay, who phoned up TalkSport and had a chat with them about it, and they seem to like his idea. So let's run it by you. He says, I would ban VAR for making any decisions. If there's been a clear and obvious error, VAR would still recommend that the referee checks the monitor. Then only the referee can change the original decision of his the assistant then, or the linesman. No more lines are for offside. If it's not a clear error from the referee or the assistant ref, then you stay with the decision. It's to be less delays, no more waiting for the lines to be drawn, and VAR would only do what it's supposed to do when brought in 2 years ago, does not really referee the match from a TV monitor miles away. Simple, and just let the VAR sort of go, you made a mistake, have a look, ref, and just check if you have made a mistake. Is that going to work?
That's exactly what I've been saying myself, so I'm on the same page. VAR should have been brought, or I thought was being brought in. I think it's a good idea to get the more correct decisions that are, blatantly been missed. So it's clear and obvious, and that should be the reasons why. We've got to learn from other sports. Cricket is one where, an umpire gives not out, and but then once it goes to the video and they look at it, and it's just about clipping the top of the barrels. So the umpire's got it slightly wrong, but it would have been out in theory, but it's fractions, and they stay with the on-field decision. And I think football's got to learn from that. We are becoming robots. We're becoming. It's ridiculous that it's like an absolute hair's breadth that someone's knee is slightly past someone's elbow or neck or whatever, and he's going to be given offside. That is not why we brought VAR in my opinion. In my opinion, he didn't see Thierry Henry's little slight handball, or Maradona back in the day, or other situations. It really should be the referee on the pitch should be making them decisions. And I like the fact that, yes, put the pressure back on them. VAR makes them go over and looks at the monitor and let them make the decisions, whether it was over the line for a penalty or not, or whether, let them see that there. But this, the handball scenarios as well, that's not VAR, that's the rules. The rules of the game are suffocating our game. And There are some ridiculous handballs. There really are. We are having to teach young kids to defend with their arms behind their back to go and it's not right, because to drop your shoulder and to put somebody off balance is you do that. Yeah, that's the idea. That's what you're trying to create. But you're going to make it so much easier for creative players to do that if you've got to have your arms behind your back as well. You can't put your arms out for balance to try and get close and get low. You teach kids to get low, and you teach players to get low, and don't stand up high. You get low. You put your arms out. You need your balance to then if they're taking you on, that's an art. That's a part of it's a skill in many ways. We look at skill only with what we do with our feet or our chest or our thigh, when we're on the ball, but defenders have got to be given a chance. And to go out and see players get handballs against you this weekend again, I saw one. And you're just thinking, no, it's absolute garbage. It really is, and it's killing the game. And I think they've got to have a real look at the rules, but also then where VAR steps in and where VAR gives it back to the referee to go and have a look at the monitor and let him make the decision. And I think we would have a much better game. The thing is, as an entertainment side of it, not a business side, not 3 points or no 3 points. Those decisions are being made. Don't get me wrong. You can plan all week, and 95 minutes you're out there playing and you're working hard and you're trying to create and you're trying to defend. Most games now come down to a VAR decision that is fractions, or a subject. It's subject to an opinion again, whether a handball is someone's turned his back and he's out to hit his arm, because it was being crossed from their wide position and they're given a penalty. Too many games are being turned on that. Plus, as an entertainment, it is ridiculous. You can't, I feel sorry for these young generations of players who are not, Chris, they're not going to be able to celebrate a goal. No. And fans that are going to come through and watch the game, they're going to go, okay, well, we might have scored. We'll have a look up. We'll have a look up in the video and we'll wait. Yeah. And that moment has gone. Yeah. That moment is absolutely gone. So I think football has to really look at it for that sake as much as anything, because you want it to be exciting. You want it to be the greatest game in the world, the number one sport. And I'm sorry, if it keeps going like this, people won't want to go into the stadiums to watch it. They'll say, well, I've got to wait and watch it. Whether the decision's for VAR, I've got to watch it on the video, or I've got to wait until I get home to watch it, whether it was offside by a fraction or whether it was out. Do you see what I'm saying? And the players will get sick of, well, I'm not going to celebrate. And that's a part of football. That goal you spoke about that I scored, this week on Revisited, blah, 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 that was a wonderful feeling to go through that. But to think that I might have to wait I can't celebrate and jump in the air, and I'd have had to wait. And then you go, okay, and then by then someone's just patting you on your back. Oh, good goal, well done. And back to the halfway line. And that's not football. That's not professional sport. That's not what spectators or players play the game or spectators want to watch. And that's why they pay their money to go into stadiums, to have that excitement, to have that atmosphere. And VAR, the way we're doing with it, is taking all that away, as well as what we're talking about, actually the rules of the game and making decisions on little fractions. And in the end, in another couple of years, it's going to be boring. People will go, I'm watching telly. I ain't going to go in the stadium. What we've got now, because of a pandemic, we're going to have, if we don't watch it, because people don't really want to have to be in that stadium, because they can't really let themselves celebrate goals. And that's why people go to football, to watch goals. They go to cricket to watch wickets. They love to see the wickets flying. It's disappointing if it's a no ball, isn't it? And that's what.
Well, just very briefly, Patrick Bamford probably needs to go to the gym to lose another inch off either his arm or his leg, because the second time this season he's gone through, scored a cracking goal with his left foot, and he spent, I don't know what was part offside, but his knee, I think, or maybe his hand or arm, unbelievable in that Wolves game. How can that? It's just so unfair, isn't it?
Well, this is it. We are refereeing as if there's robots out there, and it's not a robot. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong, but it's not a robotic game yet. They're not robots. They're not. It's not FIFA playing on a PlayStation. We've still got this element of we've got to have that. If we take that away, the game's dead. the game's going to be dead. So, that is a great example, and the poor lad has had a couple of those. I think we've got to go back to the on-field decisions, because if there is a linesman that could have actually been that good, and he had a robotic eye, and he saw that Bamford, for instance, was offside, and he puts his flag up, and then on VAR, then they go and test that, and then they say that's offside, then I hold my hands up and say, yeah, that's a right decision. Leave it to the on-field decision. But you can't tell me of a linesman that could have actually seen that. So even if it's the most fractional of all fractions, we can't referee the games like that. It's getting ridiculous. So let the on-field decisions be our key decision maker, and if there is something clear and obvious that is in there that VAR pick up, then that's what it should be brought in for, nothing else.
But it's not even consistent. Very, very briefly, Sheffield United, Fulham. Sheffield United had a clear penalty at the end when the keeper took out the forward, and VAR looked at it and said he played part of the ball as well. Well, anywhere else on the pitch, that's a free kick, possibly a yellow card, but no penalty given. I know they've been down in the dump, Sheffield United, and I've written them off already. But if you have a look like that, you don't really need anything else on your side, because you've got no chance.
Yeah, no, we're going back to what looking at. Those decisions are going to be mistakes, and mistakes happen. Players make mistakes, refs going to make mistakes, but to actually get the VAR to look at that and look at it in slow motion. Not that the decision shouldn't be looked at in slow motion, but you can look at it in slow motion to see if there's contact or the hand this or whatever. That's coming back to a poor decision, and that was a poor decision. There's no doubt about that.
To get in touch with Glenn with a question for a future Footy Show podcast, you can email Glenn at midnightuk.co.uk or send a tweet to @midnightmix.
Now, a chance here to win. We mentioned last week we're working with our friends at Memo. That's MEMO.me. They're on Twitter at memo_UK, and they're on Instagram as well. And Glenn, you've been sending out some videos to people, and basically this is a company that you can purchase yourself a celebrity video of yourself and many other footballers, many other celebrities on the screen from stage and fame and fortune, and you can, for yourself or for a friend, for your loved one, for a family member, have a personal message sent. And Memo are going to give you the chance to win a personal message from Glenn, absolutely free. If you go to their Twitter site at memo_UK, you'll see them there, or at MEMO.me is their website address, and it's also linked on our podcast this week as well. Good fun for you. That is it, Glenn, sending out messages to people that to cheer them up, I guess, in these really difficult times.
Absolutely, it's been really good to get a little bit of feedback on how long they might have supported Tottenham or Chelsea or things on England, and just they're down in the dumps, haven't been out. It might be a birthday, a lot of birthdays and things like that too. So yeah, it's been thrilling, and you get a bit of feedback sometimes as well, and it's made their day, and it's a good feeling. And Memo's done well to let's do a little competition. We'll do some for people that are down in the dumps at the moment.
Great stuff. So if you just check it on, it's on the link is on the podcast site. It's on Spotify and Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, etc., Amazon. They're all there. Send a link. You can win. It's totally free to enter. All you have to do is do a mention and a post, etc., and one of you will be announced next week as the winner, and then Glenn will be sending you a video message to congratulate you. You can also dedicate it to a friend or family member, as I say, if you want to cheer someone up. So good luck on that. Memo.me is the website address. There are loads of people on there as well, lots of footballers, etc. too.
To do it in my clock outfit though.
Well, that would cost extra, I'm sure. That's has anyone asked you to sing one of the memos yet?
No, but don't give them that idea, Chris. No.
We'll edit that bit out. No, we won't. We're leaving it in.
You've started something new now, yeah.
if I could sing like you, I'd be singing all day. Don't you worry about it. I sing all day anyway, but my wife just said, can you please stop doing that because it's not very good.
Fair enough.
Next weekend, we've got Chelsea Man United as one of the major games on Sunday at 4:30. Always been a top game over the years. And our friends at Tribal Football are really interested in this game, as they would be. And talking about Harry Maguire and the season he's had, we'll finish on this today. He's been criticised a lot, even by former players like Gary Neville. He said he's a poor partner for Lindelof. Paul Parker used to play for United as well, said he shouldn't be a United captain. Can you understand the criticism? I mean, he was, the stalwart, the England defence a few months ago, but he's under pressure now, isn't he?
He hasn't played as well as I know he can play. I've always been a really good fan of Harry Maguire. I think he's just took his foot off the pedal a little bit. I think he doesn't look, to me, he's always looking for decisions, and everything's got to go his way. And I think sometimes he's now got to look at himself a little bit and say, look, I've got to get in better positions here. I've got to think about my defensive side. Maybe he's just looking at. Let's think about John Stones. John Stones is absolutely brilliant for Man City. He was out of the team. He never looked like he was ever going to get back into the England squad. He was all over the place as a player. He didn't know where, all the things that I hear, there was stuff outside of the game that was affecting him. And he was all over the place. He couldn't play, he couldn't perform, couldn't concentrate. All the mistakes he was led to a goal. And it looked like his career was going downwards, going south. Well, he's turned it all around. So Harry Maguire, who was partner with him, in the World Cup as well, has only got to look at that. And he's got to get back on the horse again. He's got to get back on the bike and say, look, defend first. I'm a good footballer. I can bring the ball out. I can use the ball. I can hit crossfield passes. I can take midfield players out with my passing, and take them out of the game. He said, but now I've got to become a defender first. Let me do my defensive duties first. I'm not going to lose that talent, but what he does have to do is sort out when there's a risk and get his positional play. He's not the quickest. He's not lightning. I think Gareth, for me, I would play him. I'd play him. But I'd play him in a 3 and I'd play him in the centre of a 3. I think he gets dragged out playing in the 4, and at the moment he gets dragged out into wide positions, and I think he receives the ball in wide positions, which cut down his options. I think he gets dragged out. He hasn't got the pace. He doesn't really want to go out there in those wide positions to defend, which happens in a 4, especially if your fullbacks are flying forward. You have to get out there at times. And I think in the centre of a 3 with Stones to his right and maybe Shaw on his left as a back 3, or anyone else, it doesn't matter. I'm just putting Shaw there because I think Shaw would be a really good left-sided in a 3, especially when they've got in possession. Put him in the centre, he won't get dragged out there. You've got Cody as well, who could play as in the centre. I don't think he likes playing in a 4 either. But if you're going to play a 3, Harry Maguire can still play that. And then he's the size of him in there, he can swallow everything up that comes in for a cross anyway, because he's going to cut that near post off if he needs to. And he's got to get back to basics of maybe defending. And he's got to look at John Stones. John Stones is a great example for Harry Maguire. And I think there is a player still to come back, and there is a player that is going to be Harry Maguire that we've seen over the last 2 or 3 seasons in the World Cup, and the way he goes. He uses the ball so well, but at the moment he's just got to get himself back to basics and defend properly.
So not worry about coming out as a passing centre-half. Get back to basics, win the ball, and just lay it off and let someone else do all the other work for now.
I think it's an emphasis on getting his positions right and getting it in the forefront of his mind. I'm a defender, and I'm a good defender, and I'm going to do that job first, and the secondary stuff comes afterwards, and he'll get back to his very best. I think that position would help him do that. He wouldn't be as vulnerable in the centre of a 3. I think he's really got. It's time to sit down with someone and analyse his game, and make sure that he stays positive, that the doubters don't get on his back. There's a player still in there, and also don't forget, Chris. What I said about John Stone. It happens to players. Lingard. I'm not privy to all that, but I know there's things outside of their lives that have been affecting their game. Look at what happened in the summer with Harry Maguire. in Greece. That you can't tell me that doesn't subconsciously have an effect on people or players. They happen to be football players. It would happen to anyone in business. They'd be affected by it, and it, they've got the glare as well and the publicity of it all. That takes its toll. You think you're coping with it, but you're not. And I think his performances, it comes out in your profession, and he's a footballer, and I think he needs to really, really actually address that as well.
Well, that's all for this week. We'll be back next week for episode 25, where we will announce the winner of that competition. Enter free. Just go to the Twitter account at memo_UK. You can see the rules there. They're also on Instagram, and their website is memo.me, where you can find loads of celebrities who can send you or your friend a personal video message. Good luck entering that. It's all free, and the winner is announced next week. The winner gets a free video with the Glenn Hoddle, directly from Glenn, to either yourself or a member of your family or your friends of your choice. A personal video message coming to the winner next Sunday. We'll see you then for episode 25.
That's all for today. See you next week.